You're on my land! The bolt cutters froze mid-squeeze. Metal jaws clamped around my fence wire. Warren Hutchins pressed khakis sharp enough to cut paper HOA polo with that ridiculous tree and house logo, that smile people wear when they've never been punched in their comfortable lives, looked up from my property like I'd interrupted his morning coffee ritual. Mr. Sullivan, we're simply conducting a routine. Simply trespassing. I was off my ATV before my brain caught up, boots hitting sun-baked Texas dirt, 50 yards of pure fury closing the gap in seconds, dust kicked up behind me, my heart hammered. That's my fence you're cutting, my property you're standing on, my wire in those cutters. His partner, some clipboard-carrying kid who couldn't be more than 25, wearing matching HOA uniform like it was body armor, took a step back, stammering. Sir, according to Section 4.2 of the Clear Creek Meadows Covenant, the HOA has authority to... The HOA has shit. The words came out like buckshot, sharp and scattered. I pulled out my phone, fingers shaking with adrenaline, camera already rolling. Say your names. Right now. For the record. Before I call Sheriff Dawson and have both of you arrested for criminal trespass and destruction of private property, Warren's smile cracked at the edges. Behind him, my fence wire dangled from the bolt cutter blades, 4 clean cuts along a 10-foot section, professional work, someone who knew what they were doing. This wasn't random vandalism. This was planned. Calculated. An attack. The morning sun glinted off the cutters. I could see the serial number stamped on the handle. Professional-grade Felco cutters. $40 tool. Used on my $200 fence section. We have legal grounds to enforce community standards that affect property values. Warren started, his voice taking on that bureaucratic monotone they must teach in HOA president's school. You have trespassing charges waiting to happen. I stepped closer. Close enough to see the sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool September morning. Close enough to smell his cologne, something expensive and woody that probably cost more than my boots. See that fence? See those signs? I pointed to the bright yellow warnings posted every 15 feet. Private property. No trespassing. Video surveillance. Violators will be prosecuted. Which of those 5 words was too complicated for your college education? Warren's face flushed. He adjusted his grip on the bolt cutters, like he was considering using them on something other than wire. For a second, I thought he might actually try. That's when he made his biggest mistake of the morning. He smiled again, that same condescending, "Aren't you cute? Old man doesn't understand how the modern world works." Smile, and said the words that would echo in my head for the next 6 months. Mr. Sullivan, the sooner you accept that Clear Creek Meadows Homeowners Association has legal jurisdiction over visual barriers and aesthetic standards affecting our community values, the easier this transition will be for everyone involved. In my land. The shout ripped out of my chest, echoed across the pasture, sent a dozen crows scattering from fence posts with harsh caws of protest. Not your community. Not your jurisdiction. Not your anything. Mine. This is Sullivan Ranch. My grandfather bought this dirt in 1947 with money he saved working oil rigs and fighting Japanese soldiers in the Pacific. That fence you just cut? I jabbed a finger at the damaged wire. That's my fence, installed on my land with my money, protecting my cattle from your weekend warriors who think no trespassing signs are decorative suggestions. The clipboard kid grabbed Warren's arm, his voice urgent. Warren, we should probably go. We got the photos we needed for the complaint. Oh, you're going, I said, my voice dropping to something cold and final. But first, I held up my phone, making sure the camera caught both their faces in perfect morning light. No shadows, no excuses. Say hello to YouTube, and Facebook, and every news station between here and Austin. HOA officials destroy ranch fence, get caught red-handed. Should get some really good views, maybe go viral. What do you think? Warren's face cycled through 3 shades of red before settling on something close to chalk white. The clipboard kid was already backing toward the fence line, nearly tripping over a limestone rock in his panic. They scrambled back through my fence, through the hole they'd just cut in it, like rats fleeing a barn cat that's just woken up angry. Warren dropped the bolt cutters in his haste, left them lying in my dirt like evidence at a crime scene. I watched their pristine white Lexus SUV CCMHOA patrol sticker on the bumper, vanity plate that read CMTY STD, peel out down Meadowview Lane, kicking up a dust cloud that drifted back toward their subdivision like a middle finger from the land itself. Then I stood there in the sudden silence, breathing hard, phone still recording, and looked at what they'd done. My fence. The one I'd spent 3 weeks installing. The one that cost $18,000. The clean line of cedar posts and steel wire that marked the boundary between my world and theirs. 4 sections cut. Wire dangling. Posts compromised. 3 hours of repair work minimum. $200 in materials. And that was just this morning's damage. I knelt down, picked up the bolt cutters they'd left behind. Evidence. I'd add it to the growing pile. That's when I heard it, the screen door slamming, small feet running across the gravel drive. "Grandpa!" Emily's voice high and scared. "Grandpa, what happened? I heard you yelling." I turned. My 10-year-old granddaughter stood 50 yards away in pajamas and bare feet, her dark hair wild from sleep, eyes wide with the kind of fear kids shouldn't have to feel. Her voice from breakfast that morning echoed in my head. "Grandpa, why are those people so mean to you? What did we do wrong?" I'd told her not to worry, told her grown-ups would work it out, told her everything would be fine. I'd lied, because this wasn't getting worked out over coffee and handshakes. This wasn't a misunderstanding that would resolve itself with proper documentation and polite letters. This was war. And standing there with my granddaughter watching from the house, with my fence cut and my property violated, with those bolt cutters heavy in my hand like a weapon I'd never wanted to hold, I realized I'd just fired back. And there was no going back now. 6 months earlier, Preston Blackwood rolled up to my gate in a black Mercedes S-Class that probably cost more than I'd made in 2 years of ranching. The car was so clean it looked like it had never seen dirt, like the concept of dust was personally offensive to it. Like it existed in some alternate reality where Texas roads were paved with marble instead of asphalt and limestone gravel. He stepped out wearing a charcoal suit tailored so perfectly it probably had its own zip code. Italian shoes that clicked on my gravel drive like a countdown timer. Watched that, caught the sunlight, and threw it back like a challenge. Hair silver at the temples, the kind of distinguished gray that rich men pay for when regular gray would make them look old instead of powerful. He smiled. Not a friendly smile, a shark's smile. The kind predators wear when they've already decided you're prey. Mr. Sullivan extended his hand like we were meeting at a country club instead of my working ranch. "I'm Preston Blackwood, president of the Clear Creek Meadows Homeowners Association. I'm glad I finally caught you. We should discuss your fence situation." I didn't shake. Just stood there with engine grease still on my hands from fixing a tractor, boots caked in honest dirt, looking at this man who'd driven onto my property uninvited to tell me we had a situation. "No situation," I said. "Just a fence on my land." His smile tightened at the corners. The first crack in the veneer. "Well, that's actually what I wanted to discuss, Mr. Sullivan. According to our most recent community planning documents and the revised development footprint approved by the County Planning Commission, your northern 40 acres, roughly this section here," he gestured vaguely toward my grazing pasture where my cattle were currently doing what cattle do, technically falls within the Clear Creek Meadows residential development boundary. And that fence you've installed creates a visual impediment that violates our aesthetic covenant. Article 4, Section, "Your documents are wrong." He blinked, like I'd just spoken a foreign language. Like the concept of someone interrupting him was so alien it took his brain a moment to process. "I'm sorry? Your planning documents, they're wrong. This land," I spread my arms to encompass the pasture, the cattle, the fence line, the whole 280 acres that had been Sullivan Ranch since Harry Truman was president, "is not part of Clear Creek Meadows. Never was, never will be. My property line is registered with the county, has been since 1947. Your HOA was incorporated in 2021, so unless your lawyers figured out time travel, you don't have jurisdiction over dirt that predates your organization by 74 years. Preston's smile didn't waver, but something changed in his eyes. Something cold sliding into place behind the corporate polish. Mr. Sullivan, I understand change can be difficult, especially for established families with deep roots. The pause before established was deliberate. A polite way of saying old, past your time, obsolete. But Clear Creek Meadows represents progress, growth, the natural evolution of this area from agricultural use to residential development, the future, if you will. And frankly, he looked around at my ranch with the kind of expression someone might use viewing a museum exhibit of outdated technology. You're sitting on prime development land that could serve a much higher purpose than cattle grazing. I felt my jaw tighten. Higher purpose. Exactly, he brightened, like I'd finally understood the lesson. Which is why I came here today with a proposal, an opportunity, really. What if I made you an offer for that northern 40-acre strip? Something generous. Fair market value plus a premium for the inconvenience. Say, $300,000? Not for sale. $400,000. Not for sale. $500,000. His voice went flat. Final. That's my final offer, Mr. Sullivan. Cash. 30-day close. You walk away with $500,000. Keep your remaining land. We avoid any unpleasantness regarding HOA covenants and county code compliance. Everyone wins. I looked at him for a long moment, at his expensive suit and his predator smile and his Mercedes that had never seen mud, at the way he stood on my land like he already owned it, like my answer was just a formality before the inevitable transfer of property from the foolish old man to the smart young developer. My grandfather bought this land in 1947, I said quietly. Paid for it with money he saved working oil derricks in West Texas and fighting Japanese soldiers on islands whose names he could never pronounce. He survived Iwo Jima, came home with shrapnel in his leg and nightmares that never stopped. Used every penny he had to buy 280 acres of rocky soil that nobody else wanted because he was tired of not having ground under his feet that couldn't be taken away. Preston's smile was fading now, replaced by something harder. My father expanded this ranch, I continued. Spent 40 years turning limestone and scrub brush into something that could support cattle, something that could support a family. He died on this land. Buried next to my mother on that hill, I pointed to the small family cemetery on the eastern rise, where he wanted to be, where he earned the right to be. I stepped closer, close enough to see my reflection in Preston's expensive sunglasses. You think I'm selling 40 acres of that so you can build more identical houses for people who'll complain about the smell of cows? So some HOA can dictate what color mailboxes people can have? I shook my head. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not for 500,000. Not for 5 million. This land's not for sale. Preston's face changed. The corporate mask dropped. What replaced it was something cold and calculating and completely devoid of the fake friendliness. Mr. Sullivan. His voice went quiet. Dangerous. Let me be very clear about something. Clear Creek Meadows is going to develop that northern corridor, one way or another. It's not a question of if. It's a question of how painful the process is for you. He leaned in. I could smell his cologne now, something that probably cost more per ounce than my diesel fuel. You can profit from this transition. Take the money. Walk away richer. Retire somewhere nice. Or, the smile came back. Colder now. Meaner. You can fight it. And I promise you, Mr. Sullivan, you will lose. Because here's a truth that men like you never seem to understand until it's too late. He gestured at my ranch, my fence, my cattle, my whole way of life. Your time is over. The era of the family ranch? Dead. Extinct. A quaint historical footnote that exists now only in John Wayne movies and Texas tourism brochures. This, he waved at his development behind him. at the rows of identical houses spreading like a rash across what used to be the Henderson Ranch. This is the future. This is our era now, and the land doesn't belong to whoever held it the longest, Cooper. It belongs to whoever has the resources, the connections, the power to take it. He pulled out a business card, held it between two fingers like a blade. Think about my offer. You have 72 hours. After that, the price drops, and the pressure increases. Because we're getting that land, Mr. Sullivan, the only question is whether you're smart enough to get paid for it. He dropped the card on my tailgate, got back in his Mercedes. Before driving away, he rolled down his window. The morning sun glinted off his watch, a Rolex, I realized. Probably $50,000 on his wrist, more than some people made in a year. One more thing, he said, his voice pleasant again, like we'd just finished a friendly chat about weather. You should know I never make empty threats. When I say pressure will increase, I mean it. You'll regret this decision, Cooper. I absolutely guarantee it. The Mercedes rolled away, silent as a ghost, leaving me standing in my driveway with his business card and a sick feeling in my gut. Because I'd met plenty of men like Preston Blackwood in my 56 years, men who thought money and power made them invincible, men who saw other people's livelihoods as obstacles to be removed, men who smiled while they destroyed you, and every single one of them had eventually learned the same lesson. Some lines you don't cross. I picked up his business card, looked at the embossed logo, the fancy lettering. Then I tore it in half and threw it in the trash. 3 days later, the first letter arrived. Grandpa, what's this? Emily stood in my kitchen holding a cream envelope, staying with me for summer while her mom, my daughter Sarah, worked doubles at Austin Hospital. Smart kid, too smart. Just junk mail, honey. It says you have to remove your fence, she read, frowning. Violation of Clear Creek Meadows covenant. Remove non-compliant structure within 30 days or face fines. Grandpa, are you in trouble? I took the letter, crumpled it, tossed it. Those people think they own land. They don't. Ignore it. But what if... Emily, I knelt to her level. See that fence? That marks our land. Nobody gets to tell us what to do here. That's the deal. Okay? She nodded, eyes worried. 2 weeks later, she showed me her iPad. Clear Creek Meadows Facebook page. Someone posted a picture of my fence. Dangerous barrier installed by hostile neighbor, children at risk. HOA taking action. 63 comments, most agreeing my fence was aggressive. Emily's voice was small. They're lying about you. Yeah, honey, they are. Why? Good question. Then Sheriff Tom Dawson showed up with answers. Cooper, look at this. Tom dropped a folder on my table. Property maps, LLC registrations, business filings. Preston Blackwood isn't just HOA president. He's part owner of Lone Star Development Group. Been buying land here for 3 years. Pointed to a map. My ranch outlined in red. To the north, proposed Phase 3, development, 200 units. They can't build there. They bought it. But they can't get county approval for the access road. Too much environmental impact. Unless Tom pointed to my northern 40, they route through here, your land. Perfect access to the highway. My stomach dropped. That's why Preston offered, and why he's harassing you with violations. Drive down your value. Make you desperate. Cooper? Tom's voice went serious. Preston's got connections. County Commissioner. Building Inspector. He's done this before. Who else? Henderson. Miller. Garcia. All sold eventually. Couldn't take the pressure. I looked at my fence, at Emily playing with ranch dogs in the yard. I'm not selling. I know, but Cooper, these people play dirty. Be ready. I thought I was ready. Wrong. The escalation came in waves. Week 1. Letters. Not 1 or 2 7 in 5 days. My fence was visually aggressive. My cattle created offensive odors. My truck in my driveway was aesthetically incompatible. I filed them in a folder labeled HOA Bullshit. Week 2. Trespassers. HOA officers in polo shirts daily. walking my fence, taking photos. I'd catch them on camera, call Tom, file reports. They'd leave, come back next day. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. Week 3. Vandalism. Motion alert buzzed at 12:47 a.m. Someone at my fence. Dark hoodie. Bolt cutters. I watched recording as they cut the top wire every 30 feet. Smooth. Professional. By morning, $2,000 damage. 47 minutes of crystal clear video. Tom came out, watched footage, swore. This is organized, Cooper. Targeted. Preston. Can't prove it, but yeah. Week 4. I installed the electric fence. Top strand only. Northern boundary. Standard livestock voltage, 7,000 volts, 5 milliamps. Legal. Safe. Warning signs every 15 feet. Warning. Electric fence. Agricultural use. Do not touch. Jake, my ranch hand, helped install it. Boss, you sure? They're gonna lose their minds. That's the point. 3 days later, my phone buzzed. 9:47 a.m. Camera feed showed 2 HOA officers at my fence, one leaning against a post, gesturing, talking to his partner, his hand on the top wire. Zap. He jumped back like he'd been shot, shook his hand, let loose, cursing so creative I applauded. His partner froze, staring at the fence like it betrayed him. They scrambled to their white Lexus, peeled out. I saved the video. Best moments. 90 minutes later, Preston's Mercedes pulled up. He got out wearing that suit, face the color of a tomato. I met him halfway, coffee mug, biggest smile. Mr. Sullivan, you've created a dangerous hazard. One of my officers was injured. Injured? I raised an eyebrow. My camera shows him getting a mild shock from a clearly marked livestock fence, legal in Texas for 100 years. This is different. You're targeting residents. I'm protecting property from trespassers. My legal right. I stepped closer. Want to talk about targeting? Let's discuss 17 fake complaints to the county. $2,000 fence damage. 43 trespasses in a month. Preston's jaw clenched. You're making a serious mistake. No, Preston. You made the mistake. Closer still, you thought you could bully me like you did Henderson and Miller and Garcia. But here's the thing. I looked him dead in the eye. I'm not selling. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. This land was bought with war bonds in 1947. It survived droughts, floods, crashes. You think your paperwork scares me? For one moment, the mask slipped. Real hatred in his eyes. Mr. Sullivan, his voice went quiet, cold. You have no idea what resources this HOA has. Lawyers, county connections. We will make your life a living hell until you sell that Northern 40, or we take it from you. That's not a threat. That's a guarantee. He paused. Men like you are extinct, Cooper. You just don't know it yet. See you in court. He got in his Mercedes. Before driving away, rolled down the window. By the way, we filed a complaint with County Building Department. Emergency hearing. They're making you tear down that fence, Cooper. And your cowboy lawyer can't stop it. He drove off. I stood in my driveway with a sick feeling. Because he was right. If the county got involved, this just became a lot harder. The summons came Monday by courier. Official notice. Burnett County Building and Zoning. Emergency hearing. The 15th of October 2024, 2 p.m. Subject. Unsafe electrified barrier. Order to show cause. Failure to appear. Immediate removal, plus $1,000 daily fines. My hand shook. This wasn't Preston's HOA. This was the county. Government. Authority I couldn't just ignore. I called James Mitchell, my lawyer. They escalated, went to the county. If they get a government removal order, he didn't finish. What are our chances? Long pause. Too long. 50-50. Depends who's running the hearing and how much influence Preston has. After hanging up, I sat staring at that summons. $1,000 per day. I couldn't afford that for a week. For the first time, I felt genuine fear. That night, Emily found me at the kitchen table. Bank statements, bills, trying to figure if I could afford to fight. Grandpa? I looked up. She wore pajamas, holding Mister. Whiskers, the stuffed rabbit her grandmother made before she died. Emily only carried Mr. Whiskers when really scared. Can't sleep, honey? I heard you on the phone. With Uncle James. Her voice cracked. Are they going to take the ranch? No, sweetheart, never. But you said, tears streaming now, you said we might not have enough money. You said you might have to sell. I'd thought she was asleep. Wrong. Emily, I'm just being careful. Grandpa, I'm not stupid. Sobbing. I know we're in trouble. I know we might lose everything. I just wanted you to tell me the truth instead of pretending it's okay when it's not. She ran to her room, slammed the door. I sat alone in the kitchen, feeling like the worst grandfather alive, because she was right. I had been lying, pretending everything was fine when we were one bad hearing from losing it all. That was my real low point. Not the hearing, not the legal threats. That moment when my 10-year-old called me out for lying to protect her, when all I'd done was make her more scared and alone. I couldn't sleep. Just lay in bed, calculating worst cases. If they ordered the fence down and I refused, fines would bankrupt me in a month. If I complied, I'd be vulnerable to more vandalism, more pressure to sell. Either way, Preston won. The hearing room was packed. Preston's side, lawyers, HOA board, concerned citizens in matching polos. My side, me, James, Sheriff Tom in uniform. Sarah Hartwell, County Building Inspector, sat at the head. Next to her, County Commissioner Frank Wilson. I'd seen Wilson once. At a fundraiser, chatting with Preston like old friends. My stomach sank. Mr. Sullivan, Hartwell began, you're here to show cause why your electrified fence should not be removed as public hazard. We've received 17 complaints. 17? I blurted. From who? Confidential. But the nature, let me guess. All from Clear Creek. All coordinated. All fake. Preston's lawyer stood. Your Honor, Mr. Sullivan's hostility demonstrates exactly why this fence is a problem. It's a livestock fence. State certified. Mr. Sullivan. Wilson cut in smoothly. We're concerned about public safety. Your fence is close to residential development. My property is not in the development, and residents report feeling threatened. Then tell them to stay off my land. Hartwell banged her gavel. Mr. Sullivan, control yourself. James grabbed my arm, whispered urgently. Cooper, sit. You're making it worse. The hearing dragged 2 hours. James presented evidence, maps, certifications, trespassing videos. Preston's lawyers countered with concerned parents, scary angle photos, an expert claiming electric fences near homes were inherently dangerous. Theater, scripted, rigged. Finally, Hartwell spoke. We'll review materials and issue determination within 30 days. Meanwhile, Mr. Sullivan, post additional warning signs every 10 feet and reduce voltage 50%. Failure to comply. Immediate removal. Daily fines. $1,000. $1,000 per day. I couldn't afford that for a week. Leaving, Preston caught my eye, smiled. That shark smile. He'd won. He knew it. 3 weeks of hell. Every morning, waking up, not knowing if today they'd order my fence down. Every night, lying awake, calculating how many days I could afford $1,000 fines. Emily stopped asking questions, just watched with worried eyes. Sarah called from Austin. Dad, I talked to a real estate agent. We could sell the Northern 40. No. Dad, you're going to lose everything. I said no. Silence. Then quietly, I'm scared for you. Me too. That was the lowest point, admitting fear to my daughter. Admitting I might lose. Then it got worse. Day 21. 6 days before the ruling. I was in the barn when my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Sullivan, this is Greg Patterson, Clear Creek Meadows board member. Not calling officially, just neighbor to neighbor. What do you want? Preston's out of control. Most of the board had no idea he had financial interest in your land. We voted him out last night. My heart jumped. You what? He's gone. But Mr. Sullivan, the damage is done. County's issuing the removal order Friday. We know because Preston told Wilson to expedite it. I'm sorry. We tried to withdraw the complaint, but County says it's out of our hands now. After hanging up, I sat in the dark barn. Preston was gone. But he'd already won. The county order was coming. In 6 days, my fence would be torn down or I'd be bankrupted by fines. I walked to the house. Emily was at the table doing homework. Grandpa, you okay? I couldn't speak. Just shook my head. She got up, hugged me. It's okay, Grandpa. We'll be okay. But we wouldn't. And she knew it. That night, I did something I swore I'd never do. I called a real estate agent. How much could I get for the northern 40 acres? Quick sale? Given the circumstances, maybe $200,000. Developers know you're under pressure. Preston had offered $500 before the harassment. Now I'd get $200 for land worth $7. I hung up, stared at the contract on my desk. All I had to do was sign. Give up 40 acres, keep the rest, walk away with enough to survive. Or fight. And lose everything. I picked up the pen. The explosion happened that same night, 11:34 p.m. Motion alerts from all cameras simultaneously. I grabbed my phone. Feed showed something I couldn't process at first. 5 HOA vehicles, dozen people in polo shirts. At my fence line with something I couldn't identify. Then I saw it. Industrial bolt cutters. Spotlights. They weren't sneaking. They were cutting down my fence in broad view, recording themselves, laughing. One of them saw the camera, waved, flipped it off. I was already running. Grabbed my truck keys, my phone, called 911. Someone's destroying my fence. North boundary. Send deputies. I was halfway down the drive when I saw it. They weren't just cutting wire. They'd brought a truck with a winch. They were pulling down posts. Sections of fence collapsing like dominoes. I screeched to a stop, 50 yards away, high beams flooding the scene. One of them, a big guy in his 40s, stepped forward with a megaphone. MR, Sullivan! Clear Creek Meadows is repossessing this fence under Section 12.4 of HOA bylaws. Vacate the area. You're on my property. County order is coming Friday. We're just helping the process. That's when I saw him, standing back from the lights, arms crossed, watching Preston Blackwood. He'd been voted out, but he'd come back for this, his victory lap. Our eyes met across 50 yards. He smiled, raised his phone, started recording ME. Then he mouthed 2 words. You, lost. Sirens wailed in the distance. The HOA crew scattered like cockroaches, jumped in vehicles, gone in 30 seconds. Preston was last. Got in his Mercedes, slow, casual, rolled down the window as he passed. See you Friday, Cooper. Enjoy your last week. Sheriff's deputies arrived 5 minutes later. Took statements. Looked at the damage. 300 feet of fence. Destroyed. Posts ripped out. Wire tangled in dirt. $8,000 damage. Minimum. Deputy Williams shook his head. Mr. Sullivan, I'm sorry. Even with video, they'll claim they thought they had authority. Without the county ruling, it's hard to prove criminal intent. After they left, I stood in my headlights looking at the wreckage. This wasn't just my fence. This was my grandfather's legacy. My promise to Emily. My line in the dirt. And they'd just erased it. I drove back to the house. Emily was on the porch in her pajamas. Mr. Whiskers clutched tight. Grandpa, I heard sirens. What happened? I couldn't lie anymore. They destroyed the fence? Honey, the big section on the north side. Can we fix it? I don't know. We sat on the porch in silence. Dawn came slowly. When the sun hit the gap where my fence used to be, Emily started crying. This is my fault, she whispered. If I hadn't moved here for summer, you wouldn't have had to worry about protecting me, and maybe... Stop! I pulled her close. This is not your fault. This is about greedy men who think money and connections make them invincible. But we're going to lose, aren't we? I wanted to say no, wanted to promise we'd win, but I'd learned my lesson about lying to her. Maybe. She buried her face in my shoulder and cried. That was my breaking point. Not the fence, not Preston. That moment, when I admitted to my granddaughter that evil might win, when I realized I had nothing left. Tom Dawson showed up at 7 a.m. with coffee and a folder. Cooper, there's someone who wants to talk to you. Reporter from Channel 7, Denise Garcia. She's doing a series on HOA abuse. I'm not interested. She knows about Preston, his development company, his county connections. She wants to expose it. Will it help? Can't hurt. And Cooper, Tom looked at the destroyed fence. You've got nothing left to lose. He was right. Denise Garcia arrived at noon with a camera crew and sharp questions. I showed her everything, every letter, every video, every cut fence, the summons, the hearing transcript, Preston's development plans, and I told her about Emily. My granddaughter asked me last week if we were going to lose the ranch. I looked straight at the camera. I couldn't answer, because a man with money and connections is using the HOA and the county to steal my land. Not because I broke any laws, because I won't sell. Denise leaned forward. What do you want people to know, Mr. Sullivan? That this isn't about one fence or one ranch. It's about whether Americans can still own property without HOAs deciding they own it instead. My grandfather fought for this land. I'm fighting for it too. Then I pulled out my phone, showed her last night's video, Preston's crew, the megaphone, the winch, posts being ripped out, Preston in the background, him mouthing "you, lost." Denise's eyes went wide. Mr. Sullivan, can we use this? Use all of it. The segment aired 2 days later. Prime time. Ranch under siege. Developers plot to steal veterans' land. They showed everything. Preston's LLC, his failed buyout, the suspicious hearing, the midnight fence destruction, Emily asking if we'd be okay, and the video of Preston mouthing "you lost" while his crew destroyed my fence. It went viral. Within 24 hours, Texas Farm Bureau issued support. Property rights groups started calling. Other ranchers came forward with similar stories. And most importantly, County Commissioner Wilson suddenly recused himself from my case due to conflicts of interest. The tide turned. Day 28. 2 days before the ruling, Sarah Hartwell called personally. Mr. Sullivan, I wanted you to hear this from me before official notice. Your fence has been certified legal. No removal required. Furthermore, we're investigating irregularities in the complaint process. I couldn't speak. Mr. Sullivan, did you hear me? Yeah, thank you. After hanging up, I walked to the barn, found Emily feeding the chickens. Honey, we won. We're okay. She stared, then burst into tears. Threw her arms around me. I was so scared, Grandpa. Me too, honey. Me too. But I wasn't done. James Mitchell filed the lawsuit. Sullivan v. Clear Creek Meadows HOA and Preston Blackwood. The evidence was overwhelming. Videos, documents, Preston's own words. The midnight fence destruction with him directing it. Clear Creek's insurance saw the liability. Forced settlement. $175,000 damages. Public apology. Preston barred from all HOA positions. Permanent injunction. But the real victory came when Denise Garcia aired Part 2. Blackwood's pattern. 5 families driven off their land. She'd found them all. Henderson, Miller, Garcia, Reynolds. All harassed by Preston. All sold cheap. The documentary showed his playbook. Same tactics, same outcome. Preston's development company collapsed. Investors bailed. Partners distanced. Preston Blackwood left Texas in February 2025. Last I heard, he's in Arizona trying to start over. Good luck with that. Word travels fast. 2 years later, the fence is still there, humming quietly. Emily, now 12, visits every weekend, helps with cattle. Always asks to hear the story. Tell the part where you threw the USB at the table. I didn't throw it, honey. I slid it. But you slammed it down first, right? Maybe a little. The Texas legislature passed House Bill 2847, Sullivan's Law. Makes it criminal for HOAs to claim jurisdiction over non-member properties. James framed the bill signing photo. Note, you changed Texas, Coop. But the real victory is simpler. Yesterday, Emily and I fixed a gate on the north fence. Couple from Clear Creek jogging by. Stopped, waved. Mr. Sullivan, we voted to dissolve the HOA last month because of you. Thank you. They jogged off. Emily looked up. Grandpa, was it worth it? All the fighting? I looked at the fence. My land. Her. Yeah, honey, it was. Because they tried to break me. Tried to steal my land using lawyers and lies and fear. But they forgot. This land remembers. It remembers fence posts and windstorms, boot prints and hooves. And the day some developer learned you don't steal a man's land just because you want it. Not in Texas. Come on, I told Emily. Let's feed the cattle. We walked back to the barn, the fence humming behind us. My land. My fence. My line. They said fences divide people. I say they remind people where they're not allowed to cross the end.